If somebody is joining outside India, good morning, good afternoon to them. So thank you for joining this call. So in the last 2 days, you had some great sessions from Ashok Das. He painted a interesting picture with respect to the rural scenario and some of the ground up projects he had been doing in this sector. So all of you are now charged to pick up projects and start executing. And one of the messages that he conveyed was each student and staff member co-opt a rural village and then start implementing some solutions. So that is going to be the focus and future for the activities that we are going to do. So in these 2 days, I am going to take you through a journey of some tools and techniques which can help you in identifying the problems in our rural or urban or semi-urban scenarios, and then how do you build solutions, understanding the problems in depth. So that is going to be my focus. So more or less, it's going to be a lot of techniques, and I will also try to introduce some of the experiences I had working with both the end users and the practitioners on these areas. So I will keep mentioning them as we progress. And as per the normal format, we will have a 40-minute presentation followed by 20 minutes of Q&A. So that's going to be the style. So I have something like 15 slides, which a lot of visual content is there. So you won't get bored, I think. So let me take you through this journey called human-centered design or design thinking. Quick introduction. I had been in the industry for almost three and a half decades now. I also had some experience in the academia for some time as a sabbatical. So I will try to bring in both the industry and academia perspectives in some of the discussions, because at the end we need to understand the end consumer of these presentations and discussions. So I will be touching upon some of my experiences as we proceed. So we'll go to the next slide. Ganga? Yeah. So the let us paint the context of design thinking. Okay. So all of us know how interlocked our world is after this coronavirus spread. How a virus which started in Wuhan started having having an effect on almost all the countries in the world. So the world is no longer isolated like 100 years back. It's all interconnected. People traveling across the countries, and a lot of business, various activities happening across the world. So that also brings out a lot of problems. So the problems today are dynamic, multifaceted, and everywhere you can see a human element to that. So what are the typical questions the business, government, education, and social organizations ask in this context? How will we navigate the disruptive forces of the day, including technology and globalism? As you know, 20, 25 years back, globalization has started in a big way. Wherever a product or services can be made cheap, a lot of activity happen to those areas. Like that, we also in India started working on offshoring of software development, and China started getting into manufacturing. So which part of the world where things can be done cheaply and better. That is how things had been happening. But the whole globalization notion is currently undergoing a rethink because of various things which had been happening in the last 2 months, 2 to 3 months. So one is the events like the corona and all these things which are happening. Second is technology is also changing at a big pace, and that's also being disruptions. But then the verb of globalization I was talking about. So people had been asking, how will we grow and improve in response to these rapid changes? Then how can we effectively support individuals now while simultaneously changing big systems? So design thinking, so we started with co-creation or human-centered, design, human-centered, design and design thinking. All are the same. Okay, these are all different words. Different companies, use these terminologies for their convenience. but then all are same. Co-creation means we are having our end customer or end user in the loop in all the design activities. That's why it's called co-creation. So co-creation is the same as human-centered design. It's the same as design thinking. So all are in the same this thing. Different people use differently. So it's nothing but a creative problem-solving approach. Okay. It's not a fail-safe approach. It's not that it is always it will succeed. There are certain limitations. It all depends upon how deep we are in this process, which will decide the success of the projects. If we are doing a superficial approach to design thinking, there could be a lot of failures. So basically, this design thinking as a concept had been there, but the wording design thinking was not coined. That's all. If you really look at electric bulb, in the 18 end of 1890s, and when the electric bulb was discovered by Edison, he not only made the bulb, he also built the power generation systems and the transmission systems, and then electric bulb and everything together provided the light to the unlit areas those days. So he looked at as a holistic solution. He didn't just invent the electric bulb. He was a very tactful businessman, that he knew that if he just build invent electric bulb, it will not make a solution. A solution can happen only when then all the different links in the chain works properly. That's why starting from the power generation to transmission to electric bulb, everything he did, and he was able to excite the consumer, and that's how he was able to build a business out of that. So from that sense, we can say design thinking started even many even multiple centuries ago. But then the word design thinking started practicing around the world somewhere recently, maybe in the last 15 or 20 years back. So design thinking is not the only way of designing products and things like that. There had been other approaches for a long time. This is one of the modern approaches, and it is not that it is a solution to everything, and it is not a fail-safe approach. Okay, but if it is practiced with good depth of understanding, then the success percentage is going to be high. So we are going to understand how is the process, and what are the things that we need to do make it embrace this process so that we can make impactful products and solutions for the world. And next, Sangappa, next. Yeah. So let us understand this word little more, this thing. So as I told, I already told, all are the same. Design thinking, human-centered design, co-creation, all are the same. It's nothing but problem solving. But that begins with understanding unmet customer needs. So if customer needs are met, there is no need for any design or design thinking. But then if there are unmet customer needs, we need to convert it into a product or a solution or a service to meet those needs. So that's the basis of design thinking. From the it flows through concept development, then application of creativity and prototypes and experimentation. So it's not that the old traditional approach of waterfall models, which especially in India, when I started my career, 3 decades back, a lot of projects, we were following the waterfall approach. Okay, we used to get requirements from somewhere, and we used to sit on the requirement for a couple of months, then design, and then by the time we bring out a product, it will take a year and a half. Okay, and then by the time we give the product to the customer will say, no, this is not what I wanted. So it's going to be, it was a very risky, and it was a very costly process, because many projects used to fail because of this waterfall approach. That has been, that has transformed, like anything, with new thinking on agile and things like that in the recent times. Design thinking, approaches are applied to business. The success rate for innovation improves substantially. So it basically contains what we call making prototypes, and then getting early feedbacks, and then based on the feedback again redefine or rework on the prototype and give it to the customer again. So it's going to be an iterative process. That's what you're seeing on the right side. So how is the design thinking done? Design thinking is not done by one discipline alone. If you really look at the companies which started design thinking, you can see, a multidisciplinary, team working on them. You can see, engineers in the team. You can see, artists in the team, designers in the team. You have got marketers in the team. You have got psychologists in the team. Okay, so you have got both humanities, engineering, and all those the domain people. They work together, because if you want to solve, a problem in the world, engineer alone will not be sufficient, because engineer only can address, a certain part, but a lot of other perspectives, can come from, other people. Some of these teams even have got a lawyer also, legal professional, because not that everything you can build, and then there are legal implications and things like that. So it's going to be a multidisciplinary, team, including psychologists and all other these team members. So actually, as I told, design thinking as a the concept, had been there, for centuries, and Edison's, electric bulb, that industry around that was a typical example. But it really got attention by from Stanford's, design school, when, David Kelly, the gentleman who is sitting on, in this picture, he is a professor, at Stanford Design School, and he also had a company. He was also part of the company called IDEO, and IDEO is a design company based in Silicon Valley, and they have designed many, products for Apple. For example, the Apple's mouse and Apple's, some of the initial, computers, various, artifacts, had been designed by, this IDEO team. And David Kelly, used to champion, this area, starting from even 78. 78, is the date, they were talking about. IDEO had been, practicing this particular concept. But then, David moved on, and when Tim Brown, he took over the reins in IDEO, and he authored a paper in 2008 in Harvard Business Review, and that is regarded as one of the or pioneering, purpose, in this discipline. And I have, put that paper as a reference, in my, slide at the end. You can just read that. It's an interesting paper. So we can say, as a codified, discipline, it started, something like 15 years back, we can say. But otherwise, IDEO had been practicing this concept from 1978. So pretty long period, and all the learnings that they had in the last, 40 years, they have codified, and they have, made a lot of other initiatives, to make people around the world practice this. So I have captured a lot of, those things in multiple links, in the end of the presentation. So when you get, a copy of this slide, you can click on those links, and you can go through these things in detail. Let me give you a caution. Design thinking is typically taught, in a 2 to 3 day, workshop, and it involves a lot of hands-on, work. The idea for this presentation, in the next few minutes, is to give you a high-level idea, and then, you need to do a lot of work, for you to start practicing it. So I just wanted to, give that caution. Next. So basically, the notion of design thinking is that these three circles, the center portion in this Venn diagram, that's the sweet spot called, design thinking. So what are the other three, circles? So one is, the people. People are very important, in any problem or any solution, that even Ashok Das was mentioning repeatedly about people. And then technology. IEEE, whenever we think about IEEE, we immediately think about technology. Okay. So that is very clear to you. And then the next is business viability. Okay. Suppose, you are asked to make a solution, and if you make a solution, which costs more than a crore, nobody is going to buy that. Okay. But then the market, users, looking at, their uh, how much they can afford. So we need to, fit the budget of, the product, the cost of the product, within that. So, for example, recently, there had been a lot of advertisements, call for, proposals on a product called ventilator. All the colleges, across the world, institutions are working on a ventilator. So, what they are looking at, is a low-cost ventilator. So, let me, give some perspectives around, that particular product as we proceed. So the people is who are the users, of this particular product. So any product or a solution, we need to understand who is ultimately going to use this. For example, in the case of a ventilator, it is going to be the nurse, paramedics, and other the respiratory specialists in a hospital. Doctors also get in once in a while, but then these are the people who mainly use that. So we need to understand who are all the stakeholders who are going to use this. So that's very important. So anything which you design in these products should be, to cater to, their needs. So understanding the stakeholder needs, is very important. So that's the people aspect. Then, we should use technology. Technology means, not technology for the sake of technology. Okay, we need to use appropriate technology because just because, there are a lot of IoT, artificial intelligence, quantum computing and everything is there and everybody is so excited about that, it need not be that it a ventilator doesn't need any of these things. Okay, so appropriate technology, that is more important. Technology for serving that particular need, that is what we should look at. And then, as I told, there are budgets, available. So the current issue, we need a lot of ventilators across the world. So it need to be produced at a lower cost. Then only hospitals can afford. Then only large numbers could be bought by the people. So there is a budget within which we have to work. So that's called business viability. So the center portion is called design thinking. Okay. So essentially, design thinking has got 5 stages, but these 5 stages, we can again bring it back to 3 stages. So what you're seeing on the right side is ideation. It starts with inspiration. Inspiration means trying to understand the user needs and then define the problem. That's called the inspiration. And then what you do is you brainstorm and then come out with a lot of ideas for this and then prototype this. And then yeah, idea means all the multiple alternatives you find out. And then in implementation you do prototyping, and then you get user feedbacks, and then it will be again and again moving in a iterative fashion, because it's not that the first time I found out all the user needs and I made the ideation solutions I determined, and then make a prototype and give it to a user. It's not that everything is going to succeed in the first attempt. There are going to be feedbacks. Then again, we have to collect additional, user needs. That means again, I have to get into the inspiration stage. Again, I have to, think about other ideas, and then again prototype. So it's going to be an iterative thing. That's what the loop, you are seeing there. Next. Right. So this is a simple example of design thinking in one of the company called GE. One of the early experience on design thinking, which IDEO talks about, is this MRI machine. All of you know it's a product which is basically for scanning, which is used in hospitals. Typically costs 2 to 3 crores. So GE had a major challenge with this equipment. Because this was used for scanning pediatric patients in hospitals. So they have found, the designer of the product was very happy, with respect to the results of this product. But then when he started interacting with, the patients, the pediatric patients and their parents, who had to go through, these scans, he found that, a lot of these patients had to be, sedated because the experience in MRI machine, even for an elder, it's going to be, very tough, because I had undergone, an MRI scan. 30 minutes you have to be there, and you get all sort of weird sounds of hammers, everything, hitting your head, and then you become quite uncomfortable. So you can imagine what will be the plight of a toddler if he is put through a scan through this. He will start moving around, and then the scans will not be okay. So it's a harrowing experience. So what they do is they sedate these patients. So as per the David Kelly, who has a presented video at the end, I have given the link. About 90% of the pediatric patients, in these hospitals had to be sedated before putting through this thing. So the main designer, Doug Dietz, is the main designer of this. He was very sad because till that time, he was thinking, the product that he has designed was saving the lives of so many people. But then when he saw, his end users and the children suffering, then he had, he was very sad. So he went to this Stanford Design School, and he attended the design thinking session, and then he came out, he practiced what he learned there, and then he redesigned this whole equipment. Next. So this product, now this is the changeover which happened on the MRI machine. because they painted, this MRI machine just like, a nursery, a kindergarten room. And then they also brought in some announcements, when a child, goes into this MRI for a scan, it gives an announcement saying that it is a ship, and there is going to be a pirate, and then children need to be, silent, and, they should not shake, then otherwise the pirate will catch them. So they gave a different experience. One is the visual appeal, and then the other one is, all the audio and, all those storytelling, which they implemented. And the children, started, liking, this one. They didn't shake during scans, and then children, started telling their mothers when they will be, again taken to, this MRI machine. So it's not that the internals of the product was reworked; it was the visual appeal and, the experience, around this product, which they redesigned based on design skill thinking, which made a major difference. And, the end results, they were saying, instead of, 90% getting sedated, hardly anybody, had to be sedated, after this changeover has happened. So you can see this concept now happening in many other healthcare vendors products. For example, I worked in Philips for a couple of years, so I have seen, Philips implementing, some of the visual appeal, for people who will get otherwise, in psychological state, during the scans. So they have brought, visual elements, audio, and all those things, for these things. So this is an example. Next. Right. So if you really look at, now, as I told earlier, design thinking has got three stages. One is the inspiration, then the ideation, and then, the implementation. So that has been again split up. The inspiration phase now has been split up into empathy, empathize, and define. Okay. So empathy, all of you should be knowing what is empathy. Empathy is nothing but putting yourself in the other man's shoes. So what does it mean? That means, no, suppose you are designing a product for, an end user, we need to think, like the end user. We cannot think, I'm an engineer, I am a PhD holder, and I will design, according to my liking. That is not, what the world needs. The world needs, the designers like us, to think, like the user, end user. So that is why, empathy is defined as putting yourself in the other man's shoes. Start looking at, this particular product like as if, you are that other person. Okay. So this is Daniel Goldman, in the what do you call emotional quotient, books. He explains, this empathy factor. This had been a rare commodity, especially in the design and engineering community, because always, they were all analytical, and, they always wanted to, have some viewpoint, based on whatever theory and other things that they had been doing. So they hardly used to look at, the people and, their emotions and things like that. So empathy, is going to be in the first and foremost, in the inspiration phase. So we need to understand, learn about the audience for whom, you are designing. That's the most important thing. Then the next is to define, which we will discuss more detail. We need to define the problem very well. Because and then, we will get into ideation phase, where we will have a brainstorming regarding the various, solutions and approaches, that particular thing. And then we will choose, some few, based on, the weightages and things like that. And then we will prototype. Prototype is not a full product. Prototypes are typically cheap, models, that we make, which will bring in, the which will bring up, the shape and, color and, usage, all those aspects, which will be there, but it's not a full-fledged, product. And then we will give it to, the what you call user. That is the test phase, where the user will, start using it and give it some early feedback. So this is the linear flow that I am showing here, but it is not linear. It is going to be non-linear, which we will see later. That means there are going to be a lot of feedback loops, which are going to happen from the various stages. So you are seeing a five-stage stuff, which you can collapse into a three-stage stuff, which I discussed earlier, which is inspiration, ideation, and then implementation. So we will see those things in the coming slides. So by test, what I'm saying is the user test. The user himself, or herself, using this product and giving early feedback. That is the test. But whereas the testing that you as an engineer will do, that is all confined in the prototype stage. If you really look at, most of the student projects, I had the opportunity to interact, whether it's an IIT, NIT, or any of the other colleges. Many times, people start, their projects, so from the prototype phase. And so we don't get into any of the other stages. That is the biggest, gap, in the product design, in our country. It is not only students, even, even organizations. they don't go through the first three stages. They directly get into a prototype, and the amount of tests they do, with users and all is limited. And they start. Many people don't even go to prototype. They directly get into the end product. So that is the sad state of affairs. So students, should move from just starting from prototype. Instead, they should start getting into the empathy phase, going forward. That's going to be the discussion that we are going to start. Okay, next. Yeah, so these are the stages. It's a different naming we have. It is given. Discovery is that empathy phase. Interpretation is nothing but the problem definition phase. The third is the coming out with different solutions, ideation phase, and then experimentation is nothing but the prototyping we are talking about. And then we get user feedbacks, and then again and again we will iterate. So if you really look at the graph here, you can see the various stages here. The first is in the empathy or discovery phase, you will be understanding the challenge. What is the problem? And then prepare the research. So prepare the research. When I say we need to interact with a lot of stakeholders, especially users. So there will be surveys, there will be interviews, so many things there. And then we will gather inspiration, all the insights. We will gather by interacting with the users. Then we'll go to the next two, and then we use storytelling because it's not as you know, in requirement phase, you can see, text requirements somebody can write, or you can have use cases written. Use cases are typically organized in stories. So in product design, typically in using design thinking, we encourage, strongly, storytelling as a process. Then we will look at, we will frame the opportunities and things like that. And then we will go to the ideation where we'll generate a lot of ideas using brainstorm, and then we will refine the ideas, and then we'll make prototypes and then get feedbacks, and then track this thing. So if you see this diagram, you can see an arrows going up in the first phase. That means that is called a divergent thinking. Divergent thinking, when I talk about, that means come out with as many use cases and needs as possible in the beginning. So that is why it has got the vertical axis is basically the number of variants. So you come out with a lot of things, but then while you do the interpretation, while we do the problem definition, you feel some of the inputs that you got, insights you got, are not important. So you will reduce those, low priority or insignificant inputs you will reduce. So you can see in the second phase, the we are trying to converge there. That's why the slope is coming down. Then during the idea phase, again we will come out with many ideas. Because in brainstorming, one of the principles is we should not limit the ideas. Let people be natural and let all the ideas come out. And then during experimentation, we will have to choose few ideas based on the merit, based on weighing and things like that. And we make a couple of prototypes, and then we get user feedback. So that is what this graph shows the divergent and convergent thinking. So whenever the slope is up, it's called divergent thinking, and whenever the slope is down, it's called convergent thinking. Convergent means you select few out of many. But whereas in the divergent thinking, we create as many as what you call ideas as possible. So that's the thing. Next. Yeah, so this diagram now, I will not spend much time on this. This is the story of empathy, which happened 30, 40 years when I came to Bangalore. That time, unlike today, you didn't have many cars. Ambassador was the only car in India, and there was SD and Bullet. These were the only two-wheelers which was there. But there was a company called TVS. Also started a factory, and they wanted to design motorcycles, two-wheelers. Okay. So a team of people came from Japan, okay, and then they did extensive study, sitting on the various junctions, around our cities and villages, and to understand how people are using two-wheelers, in India. They didn't ask the Indian team to send a few requirements, and then they didn't go ahead with the design of the product. So their designers came here and spent many days sitting on all these traffic intersections across the country, to understand how things happen. So you can see here how two-wheeler is used in India, and this all these things gave a lot of insights for them, for them to make a good vehicle. So TVS Luna, if you really look at, there are certain features and all they implemented based on some of these feedbacks. And next. Yeah, so let us understand problem solving. So this is something very important for students. Today, if you look at all the projects students do, It is like, an iceberg, they are seeing, the tip of the iceberg. As what happened to Titanic? Titanic, the captain thought, the iceberg is very small because only, a small thing, was projecting on the surface of the ocean. And he was so overconfident and, he moved the ship, forward and then finally, it hit, the iceberg where 90% of the iceberg, was below. So he was overconfident and, he hit and, the whole ship sank. So that's history. This is what happens, typically in a lot of student projects I have seen, in my interactions, in the academia. So many a time, students, do projects against, some symptoms. What is, coming out of, the surface is many a times, are only symptoms, and unless you dig, deep below, then only you will understand the problem in full. That's what is important. So you need to have analysis called root cause analysis and things like that, which we are going to discuss tomorrow. The techniques by which we will understand the cause, than just symptom. But if I have to explain, the symptom and a cause, it is like paracetamol. Okay, whenever there is a fever, people take paracetamol. So fever means temperature. So temperature is just a symptom or fever is just a symptom. There can be 100 causes, physiological issues in our body which can result in a fever. So if you just put a paracetamol, we will not be able to understand what resulted in the first fever in the first place. Temperature or all these things are a way of way for our body to show that there is something wrong with some part of our body. So good doctors will try to understand the root cause and they will start diagnosing for that particular, they will start treatment for that cause. But then there are we who are not experts, at the same time some doctors who are not good in all these things, they will start giving paracetamol to kill the fever which is only just addressing the symptom. So if you do, unless you address the whole iceberg, we will not be able to make long term sustainable products. Many products in our public domain, if you see, they had been designed by just looking at the symptom. That's why they had never withstood the test of the time. They have failed miserably, whether it is any national lab. I had experience in working in public sectors and interacting with a lot of defense labs and various sectors in India, both in the private and public sectors. So one of the main failures I am seeing, is this basic issue where people, develop solutions for the symptom and not for the actual cause. As Einstein told, if he is given 1 hour, to solve a problem, he will spend 55 minutes, thinking about the problem and 5 minutes thinking about the solution. If you really compare what happens in our academia, majority of students, spend, 55 minutes, in the solution, and they hardly spend, 5 minutes in the problem. They are doing an ulta job, in this thing. Okay, okay, so innovation is problem solving, and problem solving is innovation. And defining a problem clearly and completely represents 90% of the difficulty in innovation. So from this, I am sure all of you will focus more in the problem definition stage than solution going forward. I had a lot of experience working with multinational companies and even indigenous projects where we failed miserably because we didn't spend much time on the problem definition. This is a it's a big drawback of our country. Which many of us, when we started working with overseas companies, we realized that we had been spending very little time in problem understanding, and that's why our solutions failed miserably. Next. These are the ideation is typically done, through all these post-its. I am sure, many of you would have seen, these things. Post-its are, 3Ms, innovation, and that had been widely used, in the design thinking community. Post-its, pens, and then one interesting thing I wanted to say is visualization is the most important thing, in all these, design thinking discussions. That means instead of writing, tons and tons of text, you draw diagrams which will make, visual impact quickly, and then together you can discuss these diagrams, and then you start pasting it on boards, and then we will weigh the merits and demerits of different ideas from different people. So this shows the dynamics of what is happening. But the interesting thing in ideation is everybody starts with a beginner's mind. whether it's an experienced person or a beginner, in the team, everybody, nobody will be commended, for their ideas. Okay, it's not like, when there is an experienced person of 50, 55 years in the team, he will, kill all the ideas, coming from the youngsters. So everybody's ideas are welcome, and then, the discussions are open. It's a collaborative culture. So that's what you're seeing in the slide. Next. Yeah, so I think some of these things, are very familiar to you. While you are a student, you were very, very good, in sending planes on the teacher, who is writing on the blackboard. I also done a lot of times, and you can see, the prototypes that we all made. I come from, a village background from Kochi in Kerala. So these are some of the toys, we used to make, while we were, in the village during our, high schools and other things. So all these things are sustainable, toys, and we made it. And today, everybody, looks at these things as, you were a prototyper, then we never knew, we were a prototyper then. In fact, knowingly or unknowingly, we were making all these things. Okay, and these are all, very interesting prototypes we were doing, while we were in the first standard, second standard, even kindergartens. Paper planes, as I told, and then in the recent times, all of majority of the students in this one, they wouldn't have seen, all these sustainable prototypes made from leaves and, paper planes. Still, you may be making, but then you can see, Lego blocks, that has, taken the limelight, in recent times, with respect to, prototyping. Okay, next. Yeah, so the basic principle of, prototyping is visualization is the key in design. A picture, as they say, is worth, 1,000 words. As I told, even when you write, things on the post-it, instead of, writing so many, words, it is better to put, the concept, in some pictures and some simple sketches. So that's a funda. So because visual things, makes a big, impact on, other party. So that's a funda. And similarly, if a picture is worth 1,000 words, a prototype is worth, 1,000 meetings. This is very interesting because in my, early career, I remember to finalize a product, we go through, so many meetings because there was no concept of prototyping. We make something, give it to them, and then they will throw back, and then again we will rework. But whereas, this prototyping, is concept, makes, all these meetings less, and we should be able to narrow down the problem quickly. So what you are seeing on the right side, is a quick prototype, done by one designer while he was attending, a discussion with the some surgeons. So the problem they were trying to solve was a nasal surgery, tool they were trying to make. So surgeons were explaining the user needs. Suddenly, one designer, picked up, a few things, which was lying by his side. If you really look at this, you can see, a pen there. You can see, a film roll there, and then the other one is, our cloth clip, which we normally use. So he just quickly, put together, the type of product, what this customer may need, and then he showed, is this the one, that you need? Immediately, all the surgeons told, yes, exactly, this is what you wanted. So making a prototype, it doesn't cost much. It could be done, even few minutes with respect to whatever is available around you. So this is a very interesting example, which Tim Brown, from IDEO, uses in that seminal paper, published in 2008, which was published by Harvard Business Review, where, this design problem of, this is sinus surgery product, was quickly prototyped, using that. Don't think, prototyping is a very expensive affair. If you have creativity, you can put together things quickly, and then we can get the attention of the users and, finalize things, in that same meeting itself. Otherwise, it for this sort of a effort, you may have to make multiple prototypes. You have to go through multiple meetings, so it's going to be, lot of, wastage of time and, money, for the organization. Next. So these are all, some of the prototypes. You can see, it's all sketches. There are prototypes made from cardboard. There are, sketches which are done, and bottom left, you can see how the user interface screens of, some of the mobile apps are made, where the graphical interface, you can see the various buttons and various layouts expressed there, and then you can see the arrows, red arrows which will indicate the navigation. Because when you click on this button, which screen will appear next. So that's the sort of interaction that you are seeing. So that is called UX in designing designers paradigm. UI means user interface, which is the graphical design aspects, color, the shape, and various things on the screen. And then UX means the user interaction, the navigation of the screens. So you can see all those things there. And the right thing is something which a student team had been working in the last 2 weeks. They were designing a ventilator. So today we can afford to have a 3D software like SolidWorks or CATIA, by which you can quickly make models of things like this. Olden times we had to rely on a lot of other types of models, but today things are pretty quickly. So what you're seeing down is a model of a ventilator, which the student team sketched it out, and they try to capture it in a 3D software like SolidWorks or CATIA. And that's how things happen nowadays. Things are pretty quick. And today we even have the 3D printing feature. So instead of things are on the screen, you can even print out things, and then we can even feel the prototypes. Next. So this is the one that I was talking about earlier. Now I was showing a linear relationship between the various stages. Now you can see, there are a lot of, feedback loops there. That means, when the product is given to the user in the test phase, he will say, no, this is not what I wanted. I wanted a change, in this one. So sometimes, you may have to again, push this whole project into the empathize phase. That means you are not taken care of, certain cross section of the users. That's why you have to go from test to the empathize. Otherwise, you can go in between stages. So you can see, there are a lot of this is why it's called an iterative approach. So I just wanted to show that. Next. Yeah. So, yeah. So, people may be, after going through this, you may be thinking, can I be, a design thinker? Okay. The answer is yes. Anyone can, approach the world, like a designer. Design thinking is nothing but, creative problem solving. Okay. Normally, when people talk about designer, they immediately think, this person should have an artistic, skill. He should draw well. He should be able to paint well. He should be able to sculpt, things, these things. So he should have artistic ability. It's not true. The as long as you are able to express your ideas, even as simple sketches, that is more than sufficient. It's ideas which matter, not your artistic abilities in a big way. But if you have an artistic ability, that helps in conveying your thoughts quickly. Otherwise, you have to write 1,000 words. But if you are having at least some aptitude towards sketching, cartooning, and things like that, you can quickly express all that 1,000 words into a simple picture, and everybody will understand. That's advantage. Okay, but then building creative confidence is the key. This is very important because you can see a video at the end of this one, the link that I given from David Kelly, where he talks about creative confidence issue. Because when we were kids, we built paper planes, we built all sort of toys by ourselves. But then as we keep on moving up in our academic system, we start losing all this creativity. And when you come into the actual job, many people I have seen, the teams I have worked with, I have hardly seen people expressing their ideas in any of the forms that they are familiar with. You can use even a dance to express some of your ideas. You can use pictures to express your ideas. But what happens is our system, our education system, hardly takes care of the creative aspects in the students, and so they won't practice, or they become shy, and so by the time they actually want to design something, all the creativity they had earlier would have been lost. So there is a video there. You can see at the end, the link is given, and this is from David Kelly. This is creative confidence. This video. Then to think like a designer requires dreaming up wild ideas. You should think, taking time to tinker and test. What is tinkering? Tinkering means existing products. You open and see what is happening. If you really go to any design teams across the world, creative design teams, you can see products opened up from various other competitors. So it's not that everything people develop ground up. They get ideas from other people's products and things like that. So if you go to any design lab of any of these major product vendors, you can see they would have bought products from other companies. They open it up, and they see the features, and they get inspiration from that, and that's how the design thing happens. That's the thing. So designers' mindset embrace empathy. Empathy, I told already, is very important. Optimism, iteration, creativity, ambiguity, and things like that. Because every problem in the world, there is no clarity, 100% clarity. You may have a lot of ambiguous scenarios, and the success depends upon how you are able to do things. When you have ambiguity. So you need to, practice, dealing with ambiguity, while you are student itself, and that's how industry is. When you are in the industry, it's not that everything is 100% clear. With available information, we should be able to make prototypes and get feedbacks from people, and that's how we go ahead and building solutions, products and solutions. Mm, yeah. So actually, any design thinker, he should have an empathy, because you as the designer and the user, no, you should be at the same wavelength. You should tune to that particular person's wavelength. That is the only way you can make better products. Next. Yeah, so whatever I explained, are all here. What is the design thinking mindset? Whatever I explained. First and foremost, you should have empathy. You should be able to, and you should be able to, think about, multiple alternatives, and then iterate on those things. And these are all the things, what is being explained here. Next. Yeah, so these are all the references I have given here, which will to when the slide gets sent to all of you, you will be able to click on these things and you can see the various things. Majority of the resources are from Stanford Design School, and then IDEO, and IDEO also has brought up a site called an Open IDEO. Open IDEO is a crowdsourcing community of designers across the world, and they design, they come out with global challenges, and they all take part in solving those global challenges. And there are so many projects which OpenIDEO has done. You can go to their site and you can find out, and there are a lot of chapters for these OpenIDEO communities across the world. And when I checked up, Bangalore also has got a chapter in Asia Pacific, but hardly there is an activity there. So I strongly encourage for you to look at that and then see how IEEE site activities, in Bangalore, could be, aligned with that. And then, we can put in, more. IEEE site encourages not only IEEE volunteers, even, non-IEEE volunteers are also welcome, IEEE site projects. So you can work, in a bigger umbrella of, OpenIDEO, because OpenIDEO publishes a lot of tools and techniques, and then you get the whole global community available to you, to support you. With respect to best practice and things like that. So the currently, inactive, this design OpenIDEO chapter of Bangalore, in my view, could be revived with the participation of IEEE site here. Okay, so that's all. The summary that I'm just wanted to highlight. Could you go to the next one? Yeah, I think you can go back to that this thing. Okay, so I think I took 8 minutes more than the time allotted to me, but then I will throw open for questions now.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Jayakrishnan, Divakran, and sorry I could join late and we could not introduce you, but I would like to just give a small introduction about the speaker. He is having more than 35 years of experience in various companies, multinational to national, and now he is running his own company as well as a tinkering lab. So thank you very much for the wonderful session on design thinking and most importantly, human-centered design thinking approach. We have now received few questions. I will be reading one by one and I will request you to kindly answer for the participants. The first question is design thinking applicable only in case of product development approach, or do you think it's applicable even in back-end services BPO type of operations?
Right. That's a very interesting question, and it can be applied across various areas. You can start applying on products. You can apply on solutions. You can apply on processes. You can apply on services. For example, even celebrating a birthday. Okay, that's something everybody does this thing. So you can take that as a problem, and then you can apply design thinking. So that this year's birthday, you can make a difference, to your loved ones and the people who come for the birthday. So and even giving a gift to someone on a particular occasion. Okay, we can take it as a problem and then we can apply design thinking to that, and then you can see the difference what it's going to bring. So essentially, it can be applied for products, solutions, services, and processes.
Yeah, thank you very much. Now we will go to the next question. Can you suggest any government department that has incorporated design thinking approach?
Yes, I think different, government, states would may be following this. But one thing which I know clearly is in Kerala, there is a Kerala, startup mission. So they have a something called Startup Village in Kochi, where they take up a lot of projects of the government, and they implement it. So majority of the outfits operating from Startup Village, they use this as a paradigm for their what you call solution development.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I think that is very, very important. One can go to Kerala and they can see that startup village. That is really good. So that provides a lot of information. Next question is, could you suggest any means by which we can improve upon our design thinking skills? I think we talked about those things. Anyway, you
Right.
can again.
Yeah, I'll add a couple of things. If it is a question from a student, my advice
Yeah,
to students is that beyond, a bottom-up approach, because currently in the all over academia, people start, looking at, solutions straight away. They don't even, have the patience to understand the solution, understand the problem. In fact, I had been interacting in the last 2 weeks, with a couple of, student communities for designing certain mobile apps, for the COVID-19 scenario. So in many of these calls, what is happening is before you completely explain, the problem, students, start saying either that, there is a solution which is already existing, or there is not much excitement in the solution. But I have not even completed, 80% of, the problem, which, I heard, from the users. So students, first and foremost, they should listen, and they should be humble. Okay, and there could be solutions existing. Design thinking is not talking about altogether a drastic ground up development. So there are a lot of products, services, solutions around us, which have a lot of gaps. So these are the things which we should apply design thinking, so that slowly incremental innovations we can bring into those things, so that our customer experience can be improved. So from a student side, instead of a bottom up approach, where they start from prototype and make something and show a POC, they should start thinking about how do I connect with the user community, how do I understand what the users, how the users are using this, in what scenarios this product is used. So you have to spend, as I told 95% of the time you have to work in problem definition, and then only 5% of the time you can spend on the solution, because once the problems are crystal clear, solution development is pretty quick, because IEEE is there, technology is there, there are a lot of SMEs around you. So frameworks are available. Collaborate, that IEEE site is there. Every lot of reusable framework, everything is there. But then understanding the problem, that is your job, where we are not spending much time. So we need to start the top to bottom approach instead of bottom to top approach.
Yeah, I think you nicely summarized that we have to start thinking about those things. Now, next question is to us, will certificate will be provided? I will answer for that. Yes, certificate will be provided, but only to those participants who are attending all these webinars, because these webinars are designed such that we are forming is a series that is called webinar series on humanitarian technology. So we will not be giving certificate for individual webinars, but for full series. So you are supposed to attend the full series so that you are having a holistic approach about sustainable development goal of United Nations and how you can start solving those problems which you are seeing in your daily life, either in your urban areas or rural areas. So certificates will be provided, but yes, it will be provided to only those people who are attending all the sessions without missing a single one.
One more item, sir. Add it, and they should ask a question. They will log in and go out.
Okay, good. Yeah, that is a very valid point. Next question is, are you conducting any certificate program for the students? So, Dr. Jayakrishnan, you are supposed to answer this.
Yeah, I don't conduct, certificate program. Currently, I am part of a humanitarian committee, globally, and some of the efforts, are going to be, as part of our IEEE, webinars and other things. I don't professionally do any of, these things, but there are people, who conduct professional sessions. But whatever activities I do, currently, they are all, on the pretext of, humanitarian activities. I don't give certificates also because uh, there is no point because at the end, people should, understand these concepts. They should practice these concepts, and then, when they make an impact, that is the biggest certificate, in my view. Instead of having a paper certificate, it is not going to give you, you need to practice, 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 practice. That is the only way of, learning this field.
Yeah, you are very right. I think we also should tell this our accreditation agencies they need not look towards the certificate because most of the actually the certificates are sought by faculty members so that their college can get a good accreditation mark that yes, your faculty has attended these many courses. So it is not only that we should tell our participant that they should start using rather than waiting for certificate. We have to also train other agencies as well.
Yeah. And Puneet, one interesting this thing I'll share. And the last 1 week, I had been, giving some sort of guidance to one of the student team, working on a ventilator project. And I took them, through this process. I try to give some briefing, a few minutes briefing, and then, ask them to, go through some of these processes. And then at the end, these students had been able to, complete, the project. They have not, got into the actual physical model because of the current COVID challenges, but they are able to get into a model state in a MATLAB and, things like that. So they went through this whole process and they were able to make, a series of slides which looks like a story. Because normally, if you look at a student project, it starts from, the implementation. But here is where, students started from, empathizing with, the stakeholders like doctors, nurses, paramedics, and then, understanding the user needs, then, making the architecture and, looking at the multiple alternatives, solution alternatives. And then, they are using, they implemented, some of the problem solving techniques which we are going to discuss tomorrow. So all these things, they were able to pick up, within a week. And few discussions I had, and I gave some generic overview like this. But I see, they are completely empowered now. Finally, it is the output of your product, the quality of the output, that is the one which is going to excite the students, not, a certificate or anything like that. That's my view.
Very true. I think they should go ahead with that your explanation about that MRI scanner. So if you can see how initially it was there and how they changed for pediatric patient. So that is the best example one can see. So learning by doing. Once I think this whatever you have told, definitely it is going to ignite in their minds and they will start thinking differently now onwards. Thank you very much for the presentation. Now we will go to the next question. And they are asking, will the slide decks will be shared? I think you have already told that yes, you will be sharing the slides.
Yes.
Next question is, where are Makers Lab available in Karnataka?
Yeah, I can answer that because Bangalore is a hub of, Maker Labs. As you know, there are a lot of startups, operating in Bangalore, and most of the co-working centers, their basements are all full of, Maker Labs. Go to Koramangala, opposite to Forum Mall. There is a one of the, there are a lot of clusters like that in HSR layout to Koramangala to everywhere. Wherever there is a co-working space on the bottom, the basement, you can see, beautiful, these Fab Labs. And you can go to some metro stations. For example, I stay, in Jalahalli, and if you get down in Jalahalli West, metro station, you can see, this particular lab, Maker Lab, in that in the same building of, metro. So it is available across, various places in Bangalore.
Yeah. Again, question is regarding online coursework to build knowledge in design thinking. I think you have given a lot of references, but still you can suggest one or two which you feel that they are best one and one can attend that.
Yeah. In fact, on the presentation at the end, I have given a lot of links. There is Stanford Design School, they have made, a lot of their work open source, and in edX Coursera, there are a lot of courses running on design thinking. Then MIT Sloan, they have a paid program. I did that course, 2 years back while I was working in Philips, but it costs, something like 60 to 70,000 rupees. But you will have an opportunity to interact with a lot of professors from MIT and Stanford. That's only advantage you got there. But I didn't see it really beneficial. If you can practice, as Puneet rightly mentioned, everything boils down to doing by yourself, and there is no point in taking theories and that won't in this discipline. You practicing it, in your problems and trying to do that makes you, a much better practitioner than attending all these. Even MIT Sloan, no, I didn't really feel, it was world class or something. But you can take, you can get into a lot of these challenges, crowdsourcing challenges in openideo.com, www.openideo.com. A lot of interesting challenges, even COVID challenges are there. And then you can participate, and then you can see how, various people around the world are collaborating to build, powerful solutions. Design School, Stanford Design School, and IDEO also has got a lot of links which is given there. But IDEO, their training, a lot of things, are paid now. And MIT Sloan, as I told, is again paid. But there are a lot of open source material everywhere. If you go to the internet, now you can get a lot of material. And there is a very interesting example of designing, a shopping cart by IDEO. That is some 25 years back, one half an hour or 1 hour, video session. Go through the video session, you will understand the different stages and how these master designers, and other people came together and then built a very interesting, shopping cart, from what we normally, see in all our stores. So that if you go through, all the things I explained so far, it will become, very clear to all of you.
Yeah, very true. So actually, one should start thinking how simply you can solve the problem. One should start thinking about simple solution rather than complicated solution. And second thing, we should not think that everything, if we are, because we all are engineers, so we'll start thinking about equations, we start thinking about theory and all the things. Let us put a normal mind, like a layman, how you are going to solve this problem. I think most of the solutions will come from there, and then you try to build in how you can make the product. For that you need engineering design, but for thinking and problem solving, finding a solution, you definitely don't need engineering education. Am I right, Dr. Divakar?
Yes, yes, exactly. That's what you can see. A lot of grassroots innovators from various parts of our country. I myself have talked to people, who are 10th standard, and they have not even completed 10th standard, but their products, speak out, a lot of best practices, which even top universities, in the world, use. So you can see a lot of grassroots innovators. Their innovations, they are all, inspiration for all of you. But as Puneet told, at some point, we need to apply, engineering rigor, because unless you apply engineering rigor, these solutions will not scale. But then don't start with the engineering rigor in the beginning. If you start doing it, these products will never come out. So start as he rightly told. The principle is KISS principle, KISS. Keep it simple. So then, because the end user doesn't understand now what is the technology that is used inside. For him, the product is a black box, and he should see all the functionalities served to him. That's all he wants. He doesn't think whether AI is used inside, IoT is used, blockchain is used, augmented reality is used. He doesn't bother about anything. The technology is not bothered. That's what I told. We should apply appropriate technology, not technology for the sake of technology. That's what IEEE site hack and all. They our focus is basically using appropriate technology. How do you solve the problems of the world? So because it's not to apply all the latest technology and then complicate the whole thing. Because when you apply the latest technology, the price and everything goes up. So that's why in design thinking, business viability is very important. So if we can, do something, with 100 rupees, you should do with 100 rupees. So the ventilator challenge, which is open to the whole world, is going to teach everybody, this basic principle that you typically a ventilator costs 5 lakhs. But then, you can build, even for, 30, 40 lakhs, 30, 40,000. For 5 lakhs in a machine, you can make it for 40,000 rupees, no? If you are able to be very creative and, if you apply all the principles that he was talking about, KISS principle and, all those things, so you can do that.
Yeah. So now next question is, how do we attend the sessions which I missed? Okay, so answer is, if you have registered the date when you have registered, after that you are supposed to attend all the sessions. If you have not registered before, because our e-notice was delivered delay, there was a delay in the delivery of the e-notice, so you might have missed the first session. So we will give that benefit of doubt. But if you have registered, because we know at what time you have registered, so then onwards you are supposed to attend all the sessions, then we will give you the certificate. How do you prioritize ideas during or post the thinking process? So this is the next question to you.
Yeah, it's an interesting. We didn't go into the details of, the ideation process. As I told, ideas. I think tomorrow, when we work on the other problem solving this thing, I'll go into detail. There are multiple parameters, around which, these ideas are going to be, judged. There is going to be weightage, for each of, these parameters, and together, finally you will arrive at, a cumulative, score. And whichever has got the best cumulative score, that is how, idea is, chosen. So to answer your question, an idea is, has to be evaluated on multiple dimensions, multiple, parameters, and then, a weightage is given to each of these parameters, and then we will have a cumulative, point assigned to each idea, and the cumulative score will decide, which one is the best idea, for this. So maybe I can pick up an example tomorrow, and then I can explain, in more detail.
Yeah, so now we are coming to the last question, last but one, I think. Yeah. How to catch the pulse of the end user with limited prototypes and prototypes which are still not in the market or market ready, so that we can reduce the rework cycle. Okay.
Right, right. The most important thing, the we didn't discuss much on, that empathy and, the problem definition phase actually. So typically, that phase has got a lot of interviews. You talk to, a cross section of the users. It's not the same type of users. There are, extremes, outliers in the user base. For example, children, that is one end, and then elders, it is another end. But maybe majority of the people now could be, the medium age category. A cross section of the users, you need to do interviews, and the interview alone is not sufficient. What happens is, many times whatever people tell you, that may not be the way in which they will act. They will behave, exactly, 180 degree, out of phase, with respect to whatever they say. So what you should do is, you should observe, people, using this product and, solutions or your prototype that you are given. For example, any product that you make, it should have some similarity to some previous applications or products. So either you can, look at, how they're using a similar product, currently, and what are the drawbacks, and, how things are happening. Observation interviews and all those things can bring, or when you give the prototype, how people are using it. So all those things you can really, find out, by these things. So observation is very important, eye for details, and then interviewing and all those things, techniques you have to use, to get the best out of, the people. And then you may have to ask questions, because many people will not express, their needs. There are implicit needs, inside people. So you have to ask intelligent questions. That is very, very important for a designer. So he has to bring out, everything, what is inherent, in a person, and then find out all these contradictory, things. Whatever he says, whatever he does, if it is ulta, you need to understand by observation. So if you make prototypes with that, then you can say, we can succeed to some extent. But then the first prototype, will not be, sufficient. There could be multiple versions of prototype. We need to, iterate, and that's how, we finally come to this thing. But as you rightly told, instead of reworking, many times, if you are able to make all these processes more robust, and if you apply the mind, properly, then within a few iterations you can make, a more than close, product or prototype.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. I think we have covered all the questions. So I would like to thank on behalf of IEEE Bangalore section for making a nice presentation and making it very, very interactive and lively. Also, I would like to thank all the participants who are joining our event from since last 3 days. And today also there was I can see that list of participants is quite high. So that shows that the topics what we have chosen are quite relevant, and there is a lot of traction and people want to attend, and we every day registration is increasing. So thank you very much to all of you. We will be ending this webinar today. Again, we will be meeting tomorrow at 6 p.m. and Dr. Jayakrishnan Divakaran again will be taking a session tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.